Hi, welcome to another video from Counselor Tips. In this video, I want to share with you how I use the stages of grief created by Kubler-Ross about 4 or so decades ago. So you can teach these tools to your client, but not just educating them about the stages of grief and what they mean, but also teaching them about abstract and concrete loss, and how then if a person is stalled in a stage of grief that it actually can compound or make their current grief quite complex. If we don't finish grieving and we don't move through the stages of grief the way that we need to, then we become stalled. So this video is intended to help you help clients, or if you're a client, help you not just identify the stages of grief and maybe where you haven't completed grieving, but also come to understand that grieving can be quite complex and intricate. And if you haven't finished grieving something from a while ago or even a month ago, how it can end up compounding itself when you lose something new in your life today. So the first thing I'm going to do in this video is walk you through the stages of grief and help you understand what they mean. So the stages of grief are these. Denial. Denial means that, well, we just deny it's happening. What? They can't be dead. We're not moving. We can't give up our house. Well, we've been here for a long time. It's not possible. The next stage of grief that Kubler-Ross identified was bargaining. You can kind of think of it this way. If I do this, then this will happen. So there are lots of ways that we bargain with ourselves. It's not barter. Barter is exchange one product for another, like I will give you 3 chickens if you mow my lawn. Okay, so this is not an exchange of service or product. So bargaining is really, if we would have done something different, then maybe we could have kept the house. If we would have worked a second job, we would have then been able to support our kid going to a different school. If we would have gotten the person to the doctor quicker, or they would have gotten an accurate diagnosis, they would have lived. So bargaining is one thing here, and then if the other thing here. The third stage that's recognized by Kubler-Ross is anger. And so everyone knows what anger is. So this is a place where a person can feel absolutely frustrated, exasperated, disappointed, a place where they may be acting out. It is just a general place where people are stuck in their feeling of disappointment or hostility or frustration, and they can't seem to move out of it. So anger is really a blanket feeling, but it happens. Some people may feel that there's an injustice. Some people feel that there was a disservice. They may feel cheated. And all of this can end up showing up in the anger stage of grief. The fourth stage that's recognized by Kubler-Ross is stated as depression. So depression is thrown around a little too much. It is a clinical diagnosis or a mental health diagnosis. And so when I work with clients, I like to use the word depressive because it is more temporary, and the stages of grief are intended to be temporary. This means that we will work through or be in a stage of grief, but then we're passing through it and completing it. So I like to call it depressive or sadness. That's probably more applicable to people who are really working through the stages of grief. Many of us don't need a description of what sadness or a depressive feeling is, but it can be a low mood, can stay in bed, not answer phone calls, have difficulty attending to regular daily tasks, have low motivation, low energy, cry, be triggered to cry from things that wouldn't seem connected. So depressive or sadness can show up in multiple ways for many different people, but the important thing is recognizing if you're in that stage, or this is a stage that you will need to get into and complete. Then the last stage that Kubler-Ross recognizes is acceptance. Acceptance is a stage where we understand that the loss has occurred, we understand how it's affected our lives, we also begin to understand how our lives can be impacted or changed in a positive way from this loss, and realize or maybe have memories of things that we absolutely loved or enjoyed about the person or the place or the thing that we have ended up losing. Acceptance doesn't mean that we're in a celebratory state where we're having a party because of losing somebody. That's not what it means. And so frequently when I work with clients, they'll be resistant to getting into the acceptance stage because they think that it means that they're rubber stamping that it's okay to have lost someone they loved, or lost a house where they enjoyed creating memories, or had dreams that they were going to create new additional memories, whatever it may be. But acceptance is realizing that the loss has occurred and the impact that that person, place, or thing has had in my life, and being able to shift from a really sad, frustrated perspective of the loss to being grateful and understanding the impact of that person, place, or thing in our lives, as well as how it's influenced us to change. So now we've covered the stages of grief. So let's talk about two different kinds of losses that people can experience. So the first one is a concrete loss. So if you want to think of concrete, think of the sidewalk outside or the street. It's there, you can see it, you can touch it, it's tangible. So concrete losses can be things like the death of a loved one, the death of a pet, your children moving out after they've become adults, or maybe they're going away to school, or they're getting married, the end of a marriage, leaving a job even if you hated the job, moving to another city, changing a place where you were meeting with people, maybe a restaurant closes, it was your favorite place, or maybe not so much. Whatever it is, when you have a concrete loss, it's something that was tangible. It doesn't mean death. Loss doesn't mean death, and one can grieve even if it is a positive change. Abstract losses. So abstract losses are anything that we can't touch. So if we have a hope or a dream, I hope that when my kids grow up, they'll go to college and they'll develop a career and they all decide to go off and work a minimum wage job with no future, and now my hopes for them are dashed. Well, that's an abstract loss. Another abstract loss would be a dream. So if I have a dream that my retirement will look a certain way, and I build this up and I create this narrative or story, and then it ends up being what it's supposed to be and it doesn't match my story, then I can feel devastated. So we cannot discount abstract losses as not happening, because even if we can't touch them, we have created stories or narratives around this. It's really important to help clients understand that they're impacted not by just concrete losses, but abstract losses as well. So now, how do we help clients begin to see what stage of grief they're in, as well as is it a concrete or abstract loss? So helping clients identify what stage of grief they're in, as well as if it is a concrete or abstract loss, requires you to just be a little bit knowledgeable, as I've explained earlier in this video. So you can help clients by getting them to work from their current day backwards and help them identify the losses that they've had from the one that they are presenting with in counseling. So whatever reason the client is coming in, if a relative is ill, their child has moved out, they're facing a divorce, they're terminating from their place of employment or changing career, they're getting ready to move, it doesn't matter. Take their current loss and help them identify that it's going to be or is an actual loss. From there, you're going to help explain to them whether it's an abstract or concrete loss, teach them the concept, and have them write a list chronologically from the present day going backwards. As you assist the clients in identifying the losses, help them understand which stage of grief that they have completed, as well as identify any stage that they may be stalled in. That's the big one. If clients haven't completed previous grief cycles around certain losses, then they're going to be stalled in a stage of grief. As we help a client identify where they're stalled in the stage of grief, it can help a client then become clear that if they're stalled in a stage of grief, how this can be informing clients' past and current grief and keeping them stalled and it feeling complicated or like complex grief. As they write this list and identify the stages of grief they're in, help them to understand the differences between concrete and abstract losses. If you can help them do this, then they can begin to understand if their grief is significantly complex due to the fact of not only having a concrete loss of something that has been important to them, but also any hopes and dreams that can be connected to that loss. As clients are able to tell their story or create a narrative around what they've lost and how it's impacted them and how they may be stalled, then clients can begin to heal and move to the final stage of grief, which is acceptance. Begin to have gratitude for the losses they've had. Begin to create a story about the pleasant memories around the people, places, or things that they have lost, and begin to identify how those things or people have impacted their lives for the positive. It's changing their story of misery and sadness into one that is full of hope and curiosity and joy and gratitude. I know when I help clients identify things and people and situations that they have lost, as well as help clients see that they may be stalled in a stage of grief that is keeping them stuck and is complicating other areas of their life, they have begun to develop the feeling of freedom and relief that maybe would have never been resolved had we not highlighted for them that they have had significant losses, even if it were ones that weren't tangible. Please consider using the stages of grief exercise with your client to help them address outstanding losses that they may have never considered even identifying, let alone resolving. You will find that this helps create all kinds of room in counseling for clients to work on current concerns and really focus on developing tools and techniques to solve their problems. If you found this video to be helpful and you think another counselor could benefit from it, please consider sharing this video. If you feel like you're learning from counselor tips and would like to continue to learn, please consider subscribing to this channel. And hey, turn on the bell, because then you'll be alerted to new videos as they come out. I'll see you soon.